My name is Craig Smith. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of OuterBox. I've been in digital for about 20 years, started an agency, and really help our clients in understanding and defining the most appropriate strategies for their business to grow. I'll turn the mic over to Sal and let him give an introduction of himself.
Thanks, Craig. My name is Sal Commisso. I'm the Division Director of SEO Services here at OuterBox. Really, I'm here to help talk through some SEO pointers as it relates to your holiday strategy coming up this Q4. My goal for today is really to give each of you guys an actual actionable items that we can implement into your SEO strategy over the next few months to get you prepped for the holiday season.
Awesome. Thanks, Sal. And here's the agenda of what we'll talk about today. We're going to start out going through a topic called meeting shifting shopping mindsets. And it's really predicated from a lot of research that Google did relating to the different timeframes of the holiday season and the approaches and mindsets that consumers have as they approach their shopping list. The second portion, we'll talk about the holiday ad frameworks, the different types of channels and advertising programs that you should embrace and consider when you're looking at where to spend your dollars and how to structure your website to meet these channels. We'll then move into SEO and owned media and go through different ways to approach this portion of your business, organic traffic. Sal's going to go deep into some strategies and approaches in terms of how you can structure your site more effectively, how you can create content that's going to better resonate with your audience and ultimately grow. We'll wrap up talking about UX optimization, going through all kinds of different templates with an e-commerce business and providing best practices of how you can improve your conversion rates in your site, as well as talking about the aspect of targeting unique segments and targeting, automation processes to help you drive lifetime value with your audience. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with some key takeaways, things to make sure you maybe keep as those core takeaways at the conclusion of the presentation. All right, so kicking it off, let's talk about meeting shifting shopping mindsets. This is an interesting topic. So as I mentioned, Google did a lot of research into this and has presented this online in terms of 4 unique types of holiday shoppers that they're saying, hey, brands, this is what you should be constructing your strategy to meet the needs of. First is deliberate. Second is deal seeking. Third is determined. And fourth is devoted. And we're going to dive into all of these and some of the dynamics with them. So the first is deliberate. These are the early birds. The folks who prefer to start early. They're investing time and effort into the research portion of their shopping and really are doing it early in the game. An interesting statistic that Google reported was that 29% of Americans finished their shopping by Halloween. 60% of consumers are also checking return policies to decide whether to buy a brand that's new to them during this period. And 75% of Americans head into the shopping season. We're quoted as saying they're planning ahead, showing a very high level of intentionality within their shopping efforts. So you want to make sure that you're getting ahead of the game. And we'll talk a little bit later about strategy, but you want to get ahead of the game in October and make sure that some of these growth levers you're going to be pulling, hopefully in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Now that we're past Halloween, we get close to the Cyber period, which is really the 5-day period between Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday. At this period, shoppers are beginning to benefit from their research and they're whittling down their list. They're really looking for the best deals and they're eager to start getting their shopping rolling. What I found interesting is that 70% of shopping-related search volume containing Black Friday happened in October. So when you're creating your search program, you might think that, people don't search Black Friday until maybe a week or two before the day. That's not the case. 70% of volume happened in October. And when Google surveyed their audience, 26% of holiday purchases, they were considered impulsive within that week, that 5-day period between Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday. Also very interesting was that daily volume for shopping-related searches containing the word deals grew 2,300%, literally 23 times the week of Black Friday and Cyber Monday compared to September. So again, as you look at your search programs, as you look at your organic penetration and what you're creating in terms of content, make sure to remember that there's a big segment of your audience that's looking for deals and you need to embed it into your marketing programs. Now that you've got out of that stage, we're now coming to December. And we call this mindset determined. Here, they're under a time crunch. There's less than a month to go. And with much of the audience having shopping still unfinished, it really presents an opportunity for you. What was interesting is that shoppers leave most of their purchases until December. Last year, the average US holiday shopper had over half of their shopping left to do after Cyber Week. Also interesting was that the distribution of orders are somewhat, constant between weekdays and weekends, as consumers spend an average of $4.2 billion on weekdays and $4.4 billion on weekends. And that's overall sales, both online and in person combined. As the holiday season winds down, as the events and the parties happen and everything winds down, the audience mindset goes to devoted. This is where they're on the hunt for more gifts and more deals, and they often want to indulge for themselves. And interesting data from Google shows that in January of last year, gift-related queries had a 45% increase over the early months of September and October, 45 and 15% increase, for terms like gifts, terms like presents. So they're still buying for those either for themselves or for perhaps meeting with friends and family over the next few weeks. 15% of shopping-related searches contain the word sales during the post-holiday and through the first weeks of January, making sure that or showing that audience, the shopping, American shoppers are really still looking for those bargains after Christmas. And there's also a 50% surge in interest in loyalty programs, and we'll talk a lot about this later. Searches for terms like reward program, loyalty points go up 50% once January comes around, as people are exposed to more brands and want to start building a relationship with them. In summary, nearly 1/3 of the shopping is done by Halloween. Serve the early birds. Again, going back to return policies, make sure you button that up within your business, as it's paramount. 60% of shoppers factor decisions from return policies. Also, make sure you're teasing out your Black Friday shopping plans in early October. Create those unique pages that give customers a glimpse on what you're going to be releasing. 50% of shopping is left to be done after Cyber Week, and that means you got to keep your foot on the gas. New creative, new promotions, new ways to interact with your audience, that has to be happening in those first 3 weeks of December. Don't take your foot off the gas. And lastly, don't forget your post-holiday strategy. Make sure you're catering to gift shoppers, self-gifters, deal seekers, and new customers that are looking to establish a new relationship through a loyalty program. Okay, so now we've kind of set the stage and gave a little bit of insight into how people shop. Excuse me. Now let's talk about different ad frameworks that you can run and launch to gain the advantages of this behavior. Really, we're going to talk about 4 core frameworks. First, obviously, is paid search. No other marketing channel provides the instant ability to get in front of an audience such as paid search. Social media is growing in importance, especially for younger audiences. And an interesting statistic is that 50% of Gen Z plans to buy gifts through social media. And we'll show you some ways to take advantage of that trend. Retargeting, also a very important channel to embrace within the holiday season. You want to regain lost sessions through intelligent presentations of your ads, making sure that your clickstream data is connected to your retargeting system or channel, so that you're making sure that you're re-engaging your audience with things they've already viewed. And then video as well. Make sure you're increasing your focus on video ads across platforms to boost brand awareness and to make sure you're touching shoppers in all the channels for which they're spending time. Now, getting specific, you want to create something like this. This is showing a breakdown of campaign allocation, core metrics, goals, targeting strategy, bidding, and audience inclusion. Now, this is probably a little bit more granular than you need, but I highly recommend make one document as like your source of truth of how you're going to approach these campaigns and what your ultimate roadmap is in terms of distribution of spend and what your goals are.
And just on that note, Craig, in addition to the recording, we will send this out so that you all have a copy of that. I know the table, like Craig mentioned, was a lot of information, so you'll be able to reference it. I think the other point too, with that one source of truth is just making sure that everyone is on the same page with what your priorities and goals are. So we can kind of jump to making the assumption that, of course, our goals are just going to be maximum sales. But breaking this down by different campaigns and by different budgets is just going to help make that really clear for every single person involved. So just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, great context, Sarah. Thank you for that. And going back to the Cyber Five, now here is the real big bellwether days of the shopping season: Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Sunday, and Cyber Monday. The chart you're looking at here is from eMarketer, and they're showing the incremental percentage that they expect revenues to come in at year over year. So I would use this and benchmark your own sales when they come in year over year in the holiday season. But this just gives you a breakdown, and it really shows that Cyber Monday is the big one from an online perspective to prepare for, as eMarketer is forecasting a nearly 8% growth year over year in terms of revenue and gross merchandise sales from that day. You also want to use holiday-specific keywords, and we just outlined some of them for you to consider. Now, look at your assortment. Does it map to gift ideas for dad, gift ideas for a teenager? Whatever it may be, look at these types of phrases: holiday terms, gift terms, relationship terms, sales terms. Try to create search intent from the way you structure your campaigns and map it to products that you believe would fit the bill, or even better, creating a unique landing page category that maybe is a new page on your website, gifts for grandparents. You also want to make sure you create holiday-themed ad copy. This is a great example from Macy's. They're really making sure that their integrated advertising strategy, from the ad on Facebook to the landing page to the banner advertising, all keeps the same holiday spirit and keeps the same promotion carried over. And as it relates to promotions, we did some research and found that these are the most prevalent discounts and promotions that brands are embracing. So when you go into your decision making around your promotions, maybe factor in this data. 25% of retailers in the study did site-wide promotions. 24% did only selected SKUs, maybe in certain categories like electronics. 30% did none at all. 4% did free gifts with purchase. 5% did free shipping without thresholds. 3% did buy X, get Y, almost like a gifting approach. 7.5% had tiered promotions at different levels of spend. And then 1.5% had a subscription promotion. So really think about, shipping obviously is going to be incredibly important to your conversion rate and to getting people to reduce those barriers to buy. But here are some other examples that I would recommend strategizing on. You also want to really leverage extensions and ad assets within your paid search program. The data point at the top of the screen here shows that ads with extensions saw a 10 to 15% higher click-through rate on average. I just brought in a couple examples here, one from Adidas and one from Cook Unity, and you can kind of see these additional extensions that make their ad pop, but also merchandise and market in the ad. 50% off site-wide, 65% off, incorporating the logo. And Cook Unity did an interesting approach where they're actually bringing in value proposition pathways in the ad itself, answering the question, user clicks on it, they go to a page that answers that question and also has merchandise. When it comes to social, 76% of social media users have purchased something they saw on social media in 2023. Probably the most strategic approach you can take to this in a fairly rapid fashion would be to create platform-specific shopping features like Instagram shopping, Facebook shops, and TikTok shopping. The example you're seeing here is two brands within the Instagram ecosystem. Spearmint Baby is showing their shop, they're showing their imagery. When you click on an image, that's the clothes for that beautiful baby, you click shop, it's a jump point right to the web store. And Murad Skincare takes a similar type approach, showing their product with that link, the buy now link, in their stream that's going to jump right to their web store. You also want to really focus on remarketing. And I'll talk about abandonment later in the presentation when we're in the UX section. But remarketing campaigns saw a 50% higher conversion rate during the holiday season compared to the rest of the year last year. And what you're looking at here is shopping cart abandonment rates. You can see over time they peaked in 2012 at 72%, and then since then have been steadily climbing. And then you can see the approach Wayfair takes. If you have contents in their cart, they're going to follow up with retargeting ads showing the exact merchandise, giving you a quick and easy path to buy. And a great strategy is in these instances to reinforce the value propositions, reinforce free returns, free shipping, whatever it may be when you are deploying these ads. In the video channel and in YouTube, consider implementing shoppable video assets. 63% of YouTube visitors said they've purchased something from a brand after seeing their advertising on the platform. And here are just some examples of shoppable video ads to create a seamless path from discovery to purchase in the YouTube.
And on the topic of video, so one important point that Craig had in his last slide was, we know it's, October is starting next week. This is something that you can do with existing video assets. Don't think the takeaway here is leave and go create a bunch of new video content in the next 30 days. It's great to have evergreen content. And if you have video assets, there's probably a lot that you can use that exists already that can be tailored or served during the holiday season. So just wanted to call that out, that he did include the word existing there, because there's probably a lot of existing assets that you can use.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification, Sarah. I appreciate that. All right, I want to pass it to Sal.
Awesome.
Sal? Yeah.
Thanks, Craig. So before we get into specific tactics here, there are a couple slides that I want to go through here that really give you a high-level overview of general SEO strategy and best practices that will indirectly help boost any of the holiday strategies that you're implementing on your sites. So we're going to start here with SEO Foundation. I'm not going to go through every single bullet point on here, but I do want to talk to the first 3 points on here. So first point being probably the most important piece of SEO is that technical foundation, right? Making sure that your site is technically sound and that Google is able to index and serve that content as easily as possible. That has tons of different factors. It can be URL structure, site speed, which I'll get into here in a second. But general technical foundation is important. Second would be on-page targeting. So making sure we're actually utilizing all of our core SEO elements that relate to actual HTML on the page, and making sure we're giving Google clues into where and how we want these pages to rank. And then third would be offering strategic content. So making sure we're creating content on a consistent basis that is always speaking to the challenges and questions and desires of the overall audience that you're looking to capture. Now, when it comes to content, we're always want to be focused on the buyer journey. So the buyer journey, the funnel, top funnel, bottom funnel, has a lot of different pieces to it, starting from awareness and all the way down to a conversion order, a lead. As we're producing content, we want to make sure we're maximizing performance against multi-session behaviors, meaning we're targeting users at every level of the funnel. So not only, for example, here are we creating landing pages that are targeting keywords like rompers for toddlers, right? Your commerce, high-level, top funnel searches. We're also targeting users who are searching for very specific types of pajamas. For example, Star Wars boys pajamas is the example listed here. That said, I do want to go into some specific tactics as it relates to your holiday strategy. So first thing that came to mind for me was page speed. There's a stat out there that 83% of online users expect websites that they visit to load in 3 seconds or less. And that's proven time and time again. You see it in the search rankings that Google tends to favor sites that have a faster load time. And they've actually confirmed that this is a ranking factor on both desktop and mobile, especially when you're trying to capture those last minute shoppers who may be rushing to place that order. Site speed is going to be very, very important. So the tip here is really to use tools like Page Speed Insights. It's a free tool where you can plug in the URL to see where your site stands in terms of site speed. It'll help you identify specific areas of improvement. Really, you want to aim for that largest contentful paint to be under that 3-second threshold. When it comes to specific on-page changes, so there's really two main things to touch on here. First would be refreshing any existing holiday content that you have active on the site. So if you have any existing pages that are Cyber Monday specific, Black Friday specific, any of those holidays, we want to make sure we're refreshing and updating those pages so they relate better to our current audience for this calendar year. So you want to make sure you're updating any specific year mentions, swapping out any old imagery, refreshing that seasonal messaging, adding any more higher relevant products this year versus last year. And you'll see in this example here that I posted, this is Home Depot's Black Friday landing page, and they haven't yet refreshed their landing page to 2024. It still references 2023. So it's definitely something you want to get ahead on, and it can give you an edge on the competition. Second thing here would be to create new holiday landing pages. So there's a couple major brands out here that do a really, really good job of this, specifically when it comes to category pages. So really the goal here is that you want to fill in the gaps. And if you don't have any existing holiday landing pages when it comes to categories or blogs or anything like that, you want to make sure you're posting those. The example here that I have is Macy's. Macy's, not only do they have a Cyber Monday specific landing page, they also have Cyber Monday landing pages for like very specific niche categories. In this example, it's women's deals for Cyber Monday, and there's hundreds more out there on their site. So get unique with your strategy and think about what niche landing pages can I create as it relates to those holidays. Also think about things like, oops, sorry, Craig, I want to go back. Also think about things like holiday gift guides and online catalogs. Think of things like best of lists. I think Craig also mentioned this earlier. Best monitors for Black Friday 2024 would be an example. And then also don't forget about those product review and comparison blogs. That's obviously those type of customers who are going to be researching those products beforehand. You want to make sure you have content that helps answer those users' queries. Now, these content approaches I'm about to go through are not specific to holiday, but they will play a factor as it relates to the audience that you're trying to capture. So first thing I want to speak to here is core category expansion. So the way that we think about this is you want to look at your category pages and think about what value they are adding. So the way that I think about it is if I were to remove the entire product grid from a category page, what value to the user is that page actually providing? If it's just a heading in a product grid, it's really not providing a whole lot of value, right? So we want to think past that and add that value to these pages. So in this example here, you'll see that this page lists features and options for the specific product that's being offered, answers questions, links to other related products, links to other related categories, and it really is helping the user along in that buyer journey. Similar kind of mindset here on the core product pages as well. You want to make sure that product pages are really answering the user's questions and giving them all the appropriate information. One thing to point out here is that a lot of product pages out there on the web, you'll notice that multiple sites will actually have the same exact product description. So one way to differentiate yourself is actually change that default manufacturer description to provide more robust details on those product pages. Long form guides kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the holiday specific content. You want to make sure that you have content and you're building content that is better than all the other content out there on the web, especially for those products that are a little bit higher end on the price point and are more heavily researched, more of a thought out process. You want to make sure that you have content that's helping support the user for any of the questions that they might have. Visual and utility is actually a really cool one. So this is an example of an infographic that we made for a client of ours. And this can really help with going back to that pyramid that I showed earlier, the expansion or virality of some of the things that we're doing. By creating infographics like this, you're opening the realm for potential backlinks from people who find this useful and posts on other sites. So you want to create content that's useful for the audience, helps them solve problems, and is easily shareable in a visual aspect. And then last thing, and this is a general SEO strategy, is making sure you're filling those taxonomy gaps. Try to focus on and build out new content and pages that are targeting untapped keyword opportunities. So for this example, this is a client that offers SiriusXM for businesses, right? So rather than just SiriusXM for businesses, we create a page for its music for gyms and fitness studios. So you want to make sure you're capturing every single gap in that taxonomy in terms of what keywords you're looking to capture.
Awesome. Thanks, Sal, for that. That was great. Moving next to the next part of the webinar today is UX optimization and driving lifetime value. The first topic within user experience and optimization that I want to discuss is the topic of progression rate monitoring. What it really is, it's looking at your templates on a weekly or monthly basis and making sure that you're measuring micro conversions. Now, what is a micro conversion? It's the percentage of people on a certain template that take the act that you want them to take. For example, if you're on a product page, what is the percentage of people who click add to cart? If you're on the cart page, what percentage of people and unique sessions click proceed to checkout? All of those KPIs need to be documented and stored so that when you see degradation in your overall conversion rate, you can quickly go back and isolate what part of the wheel is squeaky, where do you need to concentrate, try out new approaches, and also identify potential bugs in your code base. You always want to optimize checkout. As a retailer, it should be a key consideration, frankly, all throughout the year, not just in holiday season. Recent research by Baymard Institute, who's a leading research provider to the e-commerce sector, asked users, why are you abandoning today? And you can see what the audience said. The first, nearly double the most close other factor, is extra costs are too high. Shipping, tax, and fees. I would recommend construct an economic model. If you're charging for shipping today, construct an economic model and say, what would our conversion rate need to be to cover our shipping costs? Many times you can take this model and try different thresholds. Maybe it's free over 50. Whatever your decisions are, you might be surprised at the boost into your conversion rate when you provide free shipping if you don't do it today. Other components in here for reasons people leave: slow delivery, too long and complicated checkout process. What I thought was very interesting is I didn't trust the site with my credit card information. There's still a subset of folks out there who are potentially still scared to shop online. And you can see other errors on here that you can review when we send you the presentation. When you're looking to optimize your experience, you have your control version on the left over here. That's the current state. I'm going to show you a variety of improvements that you can make to all your different pages. You want to do that in a new concept. Your new concept should take all of these enhancements, and look, you might not be able to get it done for holiday, but you can probably get some done for holiday. And then after holiday, going into 2025, I would recommend to really look at different types of strategies of A/B testing, audience targeting, learn to mitigate risk, and also get a better experimentation culture where you're trying new approaches to your page presentations to make the experience more easier for users, making the golden rule of usability coming true, which is don't make me think. Here are some best practices. This is first in navigation. Some things you want to incorporate if you don't have them. First is have a sale category that's filter based. Make sure in your hover delay on your nav is 300 to 500 milliseconds. That's what we found as a sweet spot. You want to have a view all option at each level of the catalog, and you don't want to hide all of your category and subcategory links behind a shop overlay or a shop kind of category. I see that a lot. You're relying on a user to roll their mouse over shop to see any product categories. You want to make sure you have a best sellers and a new aspect within your category navigation. And if you don't use mega menus, this is a great thing to test. Try a bigger approach. Integrate inspiration into the menu to inspire your customers. Here are some examples for best practices on a homepage. I thought Guitar Center did a great job at hitting upon a lot of these guidelines. Number one is using dynamic sales or promotions in your global promo locations. You can kind of see what they're doing here with the 10% off Fender brands. Even more effective is you make those promos dynamic. Let's say, for example, in the previous session that I had with Guitar Center, I clicked on the Fender brands. I had 5 page views in that session. We could have a business rule that says, okay, if someone clicks 3 Fender products, show them the Fender promotion on the homepage and their subsequent visit. It's a great way to make your site more personal and more targeted to your audience. You want to highlight simple paths to core categories, and you can see they do that down here. Amazon does that very, very well, using imagery to capture attention to get the click. You want to have immediate and clear value propositions, and you want to also incorporate user-generated content and social proof. Lastly, I would recommend incorporating a new visitor experience. Use JavaScript and optimization tools so that when someone comes to your site for the first time, give them the first session experience. Really focus on your opt-in, focus on what makes your brand different, and focus on your value propositions. And then lastly, a couple more guidelines for your homepage. Consider IP geo-targeting. Sometimes putting that state in the free shipping message makes a big difference. Free shipping to Pennsylvania, where I live, perhaps could have a better activation percentage versus free shipping site-wide. And then lastly, make sure you give easy service paths, especially at the holiday season. I really like what Guitar Center did in the top right, incorporating customer service, friendly face, and a quick phone number. All right, now let's talk about site search. Some guidelines here. You want to make sure you have relevant autocomplete suggestions. So if I'm misspelling furniture versus furniture without the I, you're going to still give the autocomplete for that and be able to give the products that meet that query. You want to make sure that your exact searches are flawless. Further down the funnel, people are searching by product title, product numbers, SKU numbers perhaps. And if that's the case, your site search system has to map those numbers and titles exactly. Maybe do some testing in your catalog. You want to also do what I call enable symptom queries. So an example could be, and I actually had this example, help my baseball swing. So with the sporting goods, I went and just typed in help my baseball swing. Even though there's no specific results, there were exact matches. They gave me 75 results that they feel map to my query, and they actually do when you look at these products. You also want to support compatibility searches. So these are searches for like shoulder-based products where, the example I'm using here is USB Mac Air adapter. So someone has a Mac Air, you need to make sure that you have the extension queries that they trigger the right products for these compatibility searches to brands. And then lastly, don't neglect non-product search queries. Things like order tracking and returns. People just type that in the search box, see it all the time. Make sure that you route those folks to your FAQ pages about the certain topical areas or customer service pages that are going to answer their questions and help them in finding what they're looking for. All right, moving into the category page, here are some of the essentials. Your price, your title, your thumbnail, your variations, and reviews. And I thought Williams and Sonoma did a great job. As you look at their grid, you can see what they're incorporating into their merchandising grid. And they also use what I call a product flag. You can see that right here where it's saying bestseller. You can do bestseller, you can do editor's choice, you can do on sale or clearance. Flags are really up to your imagination, but they're a great way to capture the attention of the user. And you always want to put it above the fold on the category page landing. You want to combine variations into one list item. Sometimes when I'm reviewing websites, I'll see a brand have SKU with 5 different variations of that single SKU in a category page. And that's not what you want to do. You're taking up primary real estate from other products that they might be interested in. You want to combine them into one item. You also want to load an optimal products list. On mobile, 15 to 30 products is ideal, and then use that load more functionality to then let the user dictate when they're ready for more products. Sometimes lazy loading can cause issues in the user experience and cause more harm than good. We prefer, or at least, you got to test it obviously, but using that load more capability can be a great approach. And then lastly, when users are going into the grid, clicking on products and coming back, well, they might be 3 or 4 pages deep into the results. You want to make sure you return the users back to the same place on the product list when they return from the product page. You don't want to send them back to the top of the page. You don't want to send them back to page 1. This is a key thing to get right. All right, now to the product page, the most important page template, in my opinion, on an e-commerce site. It's truly your salesperson. The first thing I would recommend is to include your estimated shipping and value proposition in close proximity to your call to action. And you can kind of see what Lowe's is doing right there. You want to have recently viewed items below the fold to give users a quick jump point back to things they've already viewed. You also want to incorporate price per unit when helpful to the customer. And I see a lot of grocery and brands like Costco do this, where I might be buying a 20 pack of Red Bull for $15. Well, what is that per Red Bull? Just doing some simple logic math, and the product page can say, hey, this is price per unit of whatever that is, can be helpful for the customer and help push them across the finish line at an order and adding to cart. You want to use buttons for variations, and you also want to integrate urgency messaging into the presentation when possible and when it makes sense. To do that, you synchronize your inventory system with your front-end presentation and your product page, and you have thresholds. So that once you go under, let's say 20 or 10 items left in stock, you show that messaging, it can really drive improvements to conversion. We've seen it work really, really well in the high-end apparel space. You also want to test vertically collapsed versus one long paged product pages. So these are just different approaches, and you can later Google those to get a better understanding what those mean, but there's different approaches that you can take to your product page. And you also want to perhaps test a sticky call to action, where it sits in the bottom right-hand corner and you scroll down on your phone, and that way they don't lose that main call to action you're hoping for. Under the cart, I thought Crate and Barrel had a really good cart. Hitting upon primary guidelines, you always want to provide your full order cost estimate. You always want to integrate your free shipping into your order summary. You can see it right here. You want to provide a save for later feature if you don't have it. Provide large thumbnails and key details in the cart. If you're using that urgency messaging in the product page, carry it over to the cart. Make sure you're using text and imagery for trust, security, and value propositions. You can see kind of below here, Crate and Barrel is doing that. Embrace algorithmic merchandising, again, below the fold. And then also have threshold indicators. If you're using free shipping based upon certain thresholds, have a little bar at the top that shows someone where they are within the process of getting free shipping. Hey, you only have $13 left. You're going to kind of entice them to add more. In the checkout page, really, you need to do that full automatic address lookup. And it boggles my mind. I still see a lot of people who don't have this functionality. It makes it so much easier for the customer. That's for this one right here. Wayfair is showing that in there where they're searching for an address. You want to use LUN validation, guest checkout, match your credit card sequence, show your cutoff time, and all of these other aspects, which just for the sake of time, I'm going to continue past. Now, we talked about best practices in UI. You also want to make sure you're targeting unique segments within your distinct customer cohorts. This is coming from a customer in the outdoor category. And when we look at their audience, they have shoppers, people who are searching commercial intent queries with the term buy, best, cheap, sale. And then you have consumers who maybe are searching for things like, when does hunting season start? And then you have classifications like in season and out of season. They're new to the brand, they're returning to the brand. These different stipulations can be tracked using tools like Klaviyo, using tools like Google Analytics and their events. And ultimately, when you get this type of detail, it enables you to create a automation sequence, which is going to speak to segments with messaging, products, and an experience that's geared to what they care about. Both in your welcome series. Is it a welcome series for a man? Is it a welcome series for a woman at Dick's Sporting Goods? Advanced segmentation in terms of your browse abandonment. Did they browse the electronics category? Okay, well, you may also like. And then all of these other steps. This is what I call table stakes for e-commerce. Any e-commerce brand that's looking to really drive loyalty, you have to have these steps. And then in doing so, you're going to drive throughout the year more return sessions that are warmed up to your site, ultimately, hopefully increasing your conversion rates and increasing your lifetime value in terms of the number of purchases that someone would make within a calendar year. Okay, to take us home, I'm going to pass it to Sarah, and she's going to provide some core takeaways for you guys, and we'll open it up for any questions you may have.
Yeah, thank you. So just thinking about core takeaways from today, I know we were able to get through a lot and really talk through a lot of different resources and recommendations for different channels as you enter the holiday season and really get your holiday planned in terms of your marketing efforts. So as far as planning goes, that's why we're having this webinar today. The holidays are not that far off. And it's, as Craig said with some of the stats that he shared, holiday shopping is already on consumers' minds. So, people are getting their shopping done even before Halloween. So even if you are not that person, those people exist out there. Second takeaway is be intentional. So with your keywords, with your ad assets, your creative, your retargeting strategy, your content, every step of the way, you want to be intentional with what you're putting out there for the upcoming holiday season. I know Sal even called out, a huge brand like Home Depot having old assets listed on their site from last year. So this is a great time to make sure you're thinking about every step of the buyer process. And something that I even have as a takeaway, as an attendee from this event too, is with that intentionality, put yourself in the consumer's head. Like, we are all consumers as well. So the address auto-populating that Craig just mentioned, that's something that we can be very intentional about. And we know as consumers is annoying when it doesn't exist. Or when you go and type in your zip code and on your phone, you have to switch from the ABC keyboard to the number keyboard. Just different things like that can get us in the head of consumers really easily. Be intentional with all those experiences. Craig gave a lot of great recommendations for the experience that you're providing on your website, from the checkout process to your navigation. Now, we're recommending making these changes as you approach the holiday season, but investing in an improved user experience is going to pay off year round. So there are going to be some things that you customize for the holiday season, whether it's Black Friday sales or, different holiday merchandise or things like that. But keep those recommendations in mind, because they will pay off every single day of the year. And really think about that mobile experience as well for a shopper, because a lot of us are going to be shopping on mobile, not only during the holidays, but we just, are shopping on mobile in general. And even as we talk about, our pre-holiday plan, make sure part of your discussions with your marketing team is your post-holiday plan too. So have that already teed up so that people have a seamless experience as they enter the holiday shopping season and then after the holiday season. But also, it's a busy time in general for all of us inside of work and outside of work. So getting that all kind of squared away in one go is going to set you up for success. And you're just really thinking about the buyer journey before they purchase and after. So those are some of our key takeaways here. And before we open it up for Q&A, I know Craig just wants to make sure people know how to reach out to him.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. So if you'd like to have us take a deeper dive into your website from an SEO perspective, from an email perspective, from a UX perspective, I lead these consultation processes with our team to really help you in defining and understanding what are the things that we believe you can change to grow faster in both the holiday season and beyond. If this is of interest, feel free to email me at craig@outerbox.com. I'll get it going with our team, and usually takes about 1 to 2 weeks, and we can get back on a call and go through all the findings. And there's no charge to this process whatsoever.
Thank you. So definitely want to open up the Q&A here. There are already some questions that have come through that I want to start answering. But if you have a question, please feel free to utilize the Q&A section of the Zoom right now. So the first one that came through, Craig, was related to video. So are the video ads you mentioned on the display network, on YouTube, or both?
More on YouTube.
Okay.
They're embedded into the YouTube presentation. Now, sometimes Performance Max can align that. That's the ad platform of Google, can incorporate that directly. And that's probably the path I would go.
Okay. Thank you. Another question that came through was related to the tools for progression rate monitoring. So I know one of your first slides was for UX was the progression rate monitoring. Yeah. Are there specific tools that help with that? Should that be done through Google Analytics?
Great question. Great question. So it is done through Google Analytics. There is no distinct commercial tool that does that. What you need to do is create unique segments in Google Analytics that hit certain page templates. And essentially you create custom segments for those audiences, and then you just do the math. So you say, I want to see everybody in a unique session that hit the cart, everybody in a unique session that hit the category page. It can get tricky. Sometimes URL structures make it in a way that we can't do it kind of wholesale, but usually through some custom work in GA, we can get that insight. But again, if you're interested in getting that type of progression data for your brand, please reach out. Happy to align you with our analysts who can do that work and get you that insight.
Awesome. Okay, another question that came through. So you presented a lot of research on different keywords like sale and deal and how those increase during the holiday season. The question that came through was about, is it worth running those keywords at other times of year or at least testing them out? Or is that something that really should be saved for the holiday season? Like, do you think there's value outside of these next couple months?
Yeah, I think in the holiday season, it's a no-brainer because it's such a prevalent consumer behavior in their search behavior. Throughout the rest of the year, I think a lot of it depends on, do you want to be a premium brand? Do you want to be a middle of the road brand? Or do you want to be a discount brand? I think that's going to be part of the thought process of if you want to bid on terms like that. But it can't hurt to test, right? Taking 5% of your paid search budget and putting it to a category or an ad group that's completely centered around discount-oriented queries, I think is a good learning mechanism. I don't think you'll get the bang for your buck you're going to get at holiday season, obviously, because conversion rates are so elevated, but it's definitely, I would say, worth a test.
Yeah, and you make a good point. If you are a premium brand, your ad shouldn't show up 100% of the time for sale and discount keywords, because then there's a disconnect.
Right.
Okay, and then the last question, and this was more of a general one that came through, a lot was presented today for a variety of different channels, visual versus text versus content. Where do you recommend starting? I know you had you had said when we were talking about paid search ads that this is something that's more instantaneous. So with it being September, where do you recommend a brand starts if they know they can't get 100% of this done in the next 30 days?
Great question. And I love to hear Sal's thoughts. So many times there's low-hanging fruit within your site speed that can be fixed with, small engineering changes. So I highly recommend to use the Page Speed Insights tool that Sal talked about, not only on just your homepage, but every template in your site. Look and see, is there technical nuances with your JavaScript or your CSS that Google's telling you what to fix, and bring it to your engineering folks. And they may or may not be aware of it, but that's something that can quickly get impact from. And I don't know the specific data point off the top of my head, but I do know there's data out there that says when you increase or decrease your site load time by a second, it impacts conversion by I think 15 points or something like that. So it's very, very powerful. It's not only going to impact your site in the SERPs, the search engine result pages like Google, because algorithmically they're now factoring in speed into their search algorithm. It's also going to have the conversion impact. So it's really kind of a rising tide that lifts all boats. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say, creating those holiday pages that Sal talked about, having a Black Friday page, having a deal page for women's apparel, maybe your top 5 to 10 categories, creating custom pages in your e-commerce platform that have unique assortments that map to that segment. I think that would be a good use of time and not too big a heavy lift. Some of the UX aspects that I went through, some are more difficult than others, right? Incorporating inventory data in the product page, that's not going to happen in the flip of a switch. But making the value propositions in terms of your returns and your shipping proposition, incorporating them, more prevalent at all stages of your customer journey. Going back to the data point, 60% of users were making decisions partly based upon your return policy. That needs to be front and center,
right,
in your merchandising and in your transactional funnel to make sure no one's missing it. So I would go through that UX sheet with your design or development resources when you get this copy of this deck, and then say, which ones of these can we do quickly? Because without question, there's going to be a percentage of them that really are not going to be a lift of more than a couple hours.
Right.
And then lastly, when it comes to the paid program, I think those terms, creating ad groups that are going after the gift giving category, going after the holiday, the Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa terms, all that really makes a lot of sense. It's just low hanging fruit that, is going to be there for you to, again, quickly create those paid search campaigns to target those demand generation opportunities.
And And I think you bring up a good point with UX that we had put as a takeaway too. Even if you can't get it all done before the holidays, it's worth investing in improving that UX long term. It's going to pay dividends no matter what time of year. So taking some of these recommendations, if you can't get them all done by Black Friday, that doesn't mean they're not applicable.
I agree.
Sal, I saw you come off mute. Anything else you want to add to that
No,
question?
I was just going to say similar concept when it comes to the creation of those new landing pages, right? So we might create them for this year's holiday season, but next year you're just going to refresh them, and half the work, most of the work, probably 80% is already done for you. And you're just switching the year, refreshing the content, refreshing the products. So to me, that is like where I would start, because then you're able to capture traffic that you otherwise wouldn't have captured with the creation of those new pages.
Yep. And don't be like Home Depot. Set reminders to update them once the holiday season ends, or take them down.
Yeah, use a no index tag for a couple months.
So I think that is all the questions that we had come through. Like we mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we will have a recording and a copy of the deck sent out in a few days once everything is processed, and you will have our contact information should you have any follow-up questions or specific questions for our panelists. And I just want to take the time to thank all of our attendees for joining us today, and to thank Sal and Craig for a wonderful educational event. So thank you, everyone, and we will see you at our next event. More details to come on that in the upcoming weeks.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.